Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to the fully spoilery episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we are going to look at Chapter 50 of Kaiju number 8. Now, Tolstoy is still a name that is on the lips of geeky characters from random British shows for one reason. Tolstoy, the author, told intimately personal stories that touched on the universal human experience. We all know the love, the hate, the sense of inadequacy, the petty, self-serving interests that his characters live through. We might not have ever looked out over the great mountain ranges of Europe, but we have felt that awe of going on a journey and looking out the window and catching a glimpse of something so much larger than we've ever seen. We've never sat astride a great charger and quailed before the prospect of actually meeting the Tsar of Russia, but we have shrunk back from approaching someone above us in our own hierarchy. We've all stuck to our sticky plastic seats rather than ask the clerk for more ketchup. Universal experience. That is what reaches out and touches audience across his cultures. I am talking in circles today because Matsumoto reached out across the Pacific with Chapter 50 and stabbed me right in the universal experience. Everyone who had a father, a real father, comes to a certain age, that age where you realize just how much your father sacrificed for you. Whether it was physical, the father who works the extra hour at the backbreaking job, mental, the father who forgoes his night out with the boys to walk your ungrateful brain through long division, or even psychological, the father who smiles gently when you vomit all over his chest at 3 a.m. We all have that memory that grows tender and precious as we get old enough to appreciate it. That memory, those memories were Matsumoto's target with this chapter, and boy and howdy does he strike it hard and deep. This chapter is 1/3 character development for the secondary characters, from Captain Narumi all the way down to Screamy Scientist Guy, 1/3 pulse-pounding action, and 1/3 sentimental backstory. All of this works together like the complex mechanisms of a microscope to give us a peep into the soul of a good man, a father, a husband, a soldier. Aiso Shinomiya. Like many of us had begun to suspect from the hints we got about him, Aiso was a husband and father before he was an officer. Not to say that this was the chronological order, but in that sepia-toned way back, his priorities were centered around his little family. Yes, he was proud of his power as a Defense Force officer. Yes, he gloried in the band of brothers bond that he shared with the woman he loved and allowed them to, that power that allowed them to go out together as warriors and protect their land. But his main focus was being a father to his little girl. This is so much so that the dynamic of his marital relationship was that of a stay-at-home dad. He might not have studied the way of the house husband. His skills and raw power were far too valuable and necessary at the Defense Force for that, but he was the emotional heart of his home. Hikari recognized that when she took the responsibility for training Kikoru on herself. She was going to be the disciplinarian, not him. Kikoru was never going to hear her say, "Just wait till your father gets home." Hikari was going to sacrifice a portion of the natural mother's relationship with her daughter to make Kikoru strong enough to survive in this world of kaiju. And Hikari was comfortable with doing this because she knew that Aiso would be there to see Kikoru through at home. And the thing is, we got glimpses of this from way back in Chapter 33. Matsumoto is such a good creator. From Kikoru's very first live interaction with her father, and her first interaction that wasn't a flashback, yes, Aiso was being harsh with Kikoru, brutally harsh. But at the end, remember, when he had utterly dismissed her as a soldier and an officer, Kikoru didn't just leave like a dismissed officer would. No, Kikoru had enough faith in her relationship with her father to turn back and reach out for their personal connection and use that to try and defend her friend. If I might remind you, if I might dive Matsumoto's knife in deeper, in Kikoru's very first interaction we see with her father, she calls him daddy. Even after everything that had passed between father and daughter in his quest to make her the perfect Defense Force officer, that relationship that their mother and wife wanted them to have was still there. And in fact, was strong enough to give Kikoru not only the courage to defend Kafka, but a place deep enough in her father's heart that that defense was effective. This power welling up inside of me, this is so much more than just feels. Matsumoto has touched every memory of my own father's love and discipline with this. And then the chapter starts with a reminder of the pseudo father-son bond between Captain Narumi and Director General Shinomiya. And we see the courage and devotion to the duty that Shinomiya inspires in Screamy Scientist Guy. As I look back and reread the chapter, by the way, just on a side note, I find that the Screamy Scientist Guy is named in this chapter. His name is Kurusu. Knowing what we know now, knowing that Iso Shinomiya was a man with a surging and powerful paternal instinct, perhaps what we are looking at in his relationships with these officers around him is the result of him unsuccessfully trying to suppress his paternal instinct. Perhaps all that fatherly love just couldn't help overflowing out onto his younger officers. I am sure future chapters will tell, if only in flashbacks. And then, of course, there's the major plot issue that is resolved. As many of us in the community expected, Hikaru Shinomiya, captain of the 2nd Division, Kikoru's mother, and Iso's wife, died not from direct attacks from Kaiju number 6, but from overuse of her suit. Thanks to Screamy Scientist Guy, pardon me, Kurusu, we get a step-by-step breakdown of how that works. In this case, the gauntlets can even continue to function after Shinomiya's own muscles and body are damaged and pulped beyond recognition. Because the gauntlets are tapped right into his brain, he can use the gauntlets as essentially an exosuit, ignoring the damage that it's doing to his body, and terrible damage it is doing. Now, the prospect that Daddy Shinomiya is going to die, or worse, much worse, is terrible in so many ways. But once I pull my heart out of Kikoru's grief, I can't help but think that Kafka is losing his most powerful protector. The only reason that Kafka isn't a stain on a lab table or a feral hiding out in Mount Fuji is that Iso Shinomiya was able to stand up to that table full of cold scientific curiosity and hot military violence. Now that Iso is gone, who says that his successor will be able or willing to do that? And there I go, just assuming that Iso is going to fall before all the death flags, even before we know for sure that he will. And we still haven't seen how the corruption is going to manifest. Number 9 is confident, absolutely confident that he can take over Iso. And wow, I just realized that I have no idea where the next chapter will be going. Will we see Iso corrupted? Will this be another step chapter, just another step in the combat? Will we see Iso die? Will we see him crippled beyond the ability to function? I don't know. So Kurusu, our Screamy Scientist Guy, has a secret spine of steel. Narumi is Iso's informally adopted son. Hikari was killed by duty in OSHA violations and not by a direct kaiju attack. And I am left wanting a full side series on the Shinomiya's courtships and early days in the Defense Force. I don't want this just to be a backstory chapter. I want someone assigned. I want a spin-off series. And quite frankly, I'm willing to wait till the end of this series to get it if it means that Matsumoto is going to be doing it. Well, one can only hope. So, farewell for a fortnight, my handsome warriors. We will know your fate then, one hopes. Okay. So, if you want something to fill the emptiness of our 2 weeks wait, you can check out my links below the video to get a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird. I have the data, a book of human absurdity. Hit that like and subscribe button. Check to make sure you're still subscribed, because remember, YouTube will sometimes unsubscribe you. And like, share the video, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.